All right, the regular board meeting for Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District, is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Can I get roll call, please?
Tim Jorgensen here.
Tom Costin. Lester Mascon here. Paul, you have here.
Brianna Texoni here. 1C, regular board meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
Okay.
Any changes?
Yes, we have one amendment to the agenda. It's item 13A. We Tip Solutions, the contract date was changed to reflect the new fiscal year of 23-24. That's the only change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call for question, all those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen.
Costin, aye. Mascon. Paul, you have aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye. 2A, public participation. Any public participation?
Not at this time. Thank you.
All right. 3A, closed session discussion items. We may discuss conference with labor negotiators, public employee discussion, discipline, dismissal, release, conference with legal counsel, or student matters. 3B, adjournment closed session. Can we get a motion?
I'll
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Costin, Mascon. Paul, you have aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye. The board is adjourned to closed session at 6:30 p.m. All right, 3C, reconvene your regular meeting, the regular board meeting of June 22nd, 2023. Reconvene at 7:33 p.m. Our 4A flag salute, the flag salute will be led by Mr. Mescon.
Stand, face the flag, and roll your right hand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
4B civility statement states, communicate clearly and concisely with respect for the time of others. Listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Maintaining respect for the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. 5A, report of action taken in closed session. No action was taken. 6A, public comments, recognitions, and reports. Dr. Saad here.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Taxon. We have one public comment part poll at this time.
Thank you. Jacqueline Air. Please state your name.
Thank you. My name is Jacqueline Air. I'm speaking today to you on behalf of Save Our Rural Town. As some of you may know, at least 7 new battery storage projects totaling more than 3,000 megawatts have been proposed for installation in and around Acton. That is enough electricity to power more than 3 million homes. The development process for these projects has been ongoing for years and involved the developers and Southern California Edison and the CalISO. It has all been done out of public view and without any communication with or outreach to the community of Acton. Acton residents have learned about these projects only in the last few months, and SORT is very concerned about the fire, explosion, and toxic hazards that these facilities pose. The developers themselves have admitted openly that they are unable to fully mitigate the risks that these projects pose. It does not help that all of these projects are located in the northeast corner of Acton, which is where the Santa Ana winds originate in our community. Any deflagration that occurs during Santa Ana wind conditions will blow embers throughout our community. It is also important to understand that all of these battery projects will connect directly to the Vincent substation, and therefore will not provide Acton with any power. They will also do nothing to relieve the community of PSPS impacts. The developers have told the county that Acton will receive energy benefits from the project, but this is untrue. I make this assertion based on my extensive experience in transmission siting and reliability projects. Since 2006, I have participated in extensive transmission siting cases before the Public Utilities Commission, the California Energy Commission, and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. These projects have spanned San Diego County, Orange County, Riverside County, and Los Angeles County. Just over a week ago, I learned about recent legislation that was signed by Governor Newsom, which eliminates all local controls over siting decisions for utility scale battery storage facilities. This legislation, known as AB 205, has some peculiar aspects to it, and it requires the project developer to enter into a contract with a local organization that represents the general interests of the community, and to provide some sort of benefit in exchange for lending support for the project. It's a sort of buyout to secure support for the project from a local group. Because many residents and community groups in Acton have recently made it clear that they do not support these battery storage projects, I believe that the project developers will next turn to the Acton Agua Dulce School District to request support for their projects in exchange for some tokens of appreciation, such as new equipment for the school or some equity-based scholarship program. My goal in speaking to you tonight is to let you know about these battery projects and about AB 205, and to give you a heads up that you will probably be approached by battery storage project developers who will offer incentives for support in the school district. If that happens, I would like to urge you to address such matters in a manner that will allow the residents of Acton to dialogue with you on the issues. Perhaps a community workshop would be beneficial or something along those lines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would actually like to have discussion on this. Tim? Do you have anything to say? I have
You
something
can
to
bring
say.
it up in your board member comments.
I will bring up in my board member comments.
That would be appropriate. I have something as well.
Okay. 7, a board governance workshop with AALRR attorney Ronald Winkart.
Hang on just a second. I have an idea. Rather than put everybody through governance training, I make a motion that we move board member comments up the agenda until right now. Do I have a second? Second.
Discussion? I actually have something to say to that.
Well, I do as well. I know several of the people in the audience are here for the training session as well, because they may want to ask questions. So maybe we could ask what the order should be for the training.
There's a motion on the floor. Can everyone vote on the motion, please?
My part of the discussion is that we did place this on the board agenda for a regular session meeting, so that the majority of the public as well as the entire board could hear what's said in the training, because it's not just for board members, it's for the public as well. So discussion over, we'll go ahead and call for question. All those in favor of moving it?
Tim Jorgensen, state. I'm Costin. I'm state. Less than ask on that.
Paul's Jack, no. Sorry, Jack.
It's okay. Great, that's okay.
to try.
No.
Get it right. There we go. I tried, Jack.
Okay, on to the board governance workshop with AALRR.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, I'll begin the presentation. Does everybody have a copy of the PowerPoint? Is it going to be projected on a screen, or should I just go ahead orally? do the
bring up sharing of the slides on the screen for Zoom. So stand by, Mr. Wingard, thank you. There you go, Ron. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we advance the slides, I'll ask the IT department be able to advance the slides for me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Let me start by saying President Texani, members of the board, Superintendent Sahakian, thank you very much for inviting me to present tonight on the issue of school board governance. If you have attended workshops sponsored by the California School Boards Association, then much of this information will sound familiar. But let me start by saying when I tell people that I'm an attorney and I represent school boards, most people generally know what school boards are. that they're locally elected public officials who are entrusted with managing and governing public schools in our communities. And while school board members are elected as individuals, they serve as part of a governance team. So people think of the Board of Education as kind of a unit, as a team, rather than individual board members. And then that team includes each board member and the superintendent. So if we could go to the next slide. So why do we elect school boards? You know, in a lot of countries, public schools are run by government departments, whether it's a national government department or a local government department, but a lot of countries do not have elected school boards. But in the United States, we have a tradition of citizen oversight of a local government. It's a foundation that underlies all of our government functions. We have staff that are experts in the field, who have expertise in this particular, in education or whatever it might be, city government, county government, and it's governed by civilians. We have city councils, we have boards of supervisors, and we have boards of education. And these school boards provide direction and oversight for the professionals who staff the school district and manage the day-to-day operations of the schools. And really what school boards do is they provide accountability to the community. They're responsible to the community to make sure that the goals and the mission of the schools are carried out and reflect community values. So if we could go to the next slide. So CSBA, California School Boards Association, they, in their materials, they indicate 5 major responsibilities for school boards. And so what are those responsibilities? The first one is setting the direction for public schools in the communities. So nothing is more central to the purpose of local government and to a school board than ensuring that a long-term vision is established for the school district. And that vision reflects the consensus of the entire board, the superintendent, the district staff, and the community. So to get everybody on board, not just the board, not just individual board members, but the entire community, including the superintendent and district staff. And that vision should set a clear direction for the school district, driving every aspect of the district's program. So if we could go to the next slide. The second responsibility is establishing an effective and efficient structure. So the board is responsible for establishing and maintaining the organizational structure that supports the district's vision and empowers the professional staff. The board is responsible for setting policy, employing the superintendent, and setting policy for hiring other personnel recommended by the superintendent. So the board doesn't manage the district day to day, but sets the overall policy, the overall direction, and hires a superintendent who is responsible for carrying out the day-to-day functions of the school district. And the board does that by adopting bylaws and policies. So if we can go to the next slide. So continue on, the board is responsible for approving curriculum that meets state standards and the needs of the district students. The board's responsible for establishing budget priorities, adopting the budget, adopting the local control and accountability plan, and overseeing facilities issues. So the overall structure of the district, the overall direction of the district is determined by the board. And the board is responsible for directing negotiators for collective bargaining and adopting collective bargaining agreements. But the board is not directly involved in the negotiations themselves, but has staff or outside consultants who do the actual bargaining, but are directed by the school board. So if we go to the next slide. So the third responsibility of the board is providing support. The board's responsible for supporting the superintendent and the staff as they implement that vision. So the board sets the vision, and then the staff carries it out. And then the board has to provide support to carry that out. And they do that by being professional in their demeanor, modeling the district's beliefs and vision, providing resources that support mutually agreed on priorities and goals, by upholding district policies and implementing those district policies and following those district policies, ensuring a positive personnel climate, and being knowledgeable about the district's program. So these are all ways in which the board can support the staff in carrying out the board's vision. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, ensuring accountability. So that is another important responsibility of the board. So the board establishes systems and processes to monitor results, evaluate the school system's progress toward accomplishing the district's vision, and communicating that progress to the local community. So board members and the board as a whole are there to communicate the overall vision and the process for accomplishing that provision. And the board is there to ensure personnel, program, and fiscal accountability, for evaluating the effectiveness of the board through self-evaluation, evaluating the superintendent, and setting policy for the evaluation of other personnel. So the superintendent and the assistant superintendents and principals are the ones who evaluate employees, but the board establishes the process for doing that evaluation. And then monitors the superintendent and other staff to make sure that they're following the policy and for evaluating other employees and for monitoring student achievement, program effectiveness, program changes as needed, monitoring district finances, and monitoring the collective bargaining process. So there's a lot of monitoring that the board does through reports from staff and through communicating to the community. Next slide. So demonstrating community leadership. As the only elected officials chosen by the community, the board represents the interests of students as well as parents, and is the main public body that speaks on behalf of children. So board members should be advocates for students and the district's educational program. And the board has a responsibility to communicate that information clearly to the community and explain those district programs, the district's finances, and the district's progress toward those goals to community members. And when community members raise concerns, these concerns should be referred to the superintendent for resolution. So it's not for individual board members to resolve individual issues that are raised by the community, but to make sure that those get referred to the superintendent and to make sure that the superintendent and the appropriate staff resolve those matters. So if we could go to the next slide. So these responsibilities are really fundamental to our society. And that is why it's important that they're performed by an elected governing body, so that the community feels that they're part of the process, they're part of the solution. They elect who sets the direction, and the board members work together as a governance team with the superintendent to make decisions that best serve all the students in the community. So if we could go to the next slide. So what are the key roles of effective board members? So how board members perform their role is as important as the role itself. So board members need to consider, how can I be an effective school board member? Well, one aspect of that is having a positive relationship with all of the members of the board, with each other, with the superintendent, with the staff, and with the public. That has a profound impact on the board's effectiveness. And boardsmanship skills, attending workshops through CSBA, and developing those skills on an ongoing basis are key. The board's ability to come to a consensus about the direction of the school district, advocate with credibility, and establish a positive climate will accomplish wonders from the staff if everybody's together. So working on developing consensus is really important. You know, not everybody, individual board member will always get exactly what they want. It's a matter of compromise and consensus. So if we could go to the next slide. So how can an individual board members be effective? Ongoing learning, achievement for all students, that should be the primary focus. The students are the key. That's why you're elected, is to student achievement. So the next thing is to recognize and respect differences of perspective and style on the board. Not all board members are going to have the same style or the same perspective. They come from different backgrounds, different parts of the community, raised in different communities, went to school in different communities, are in different professions. So there's going to be some differences, and there's going to be differences among staff, students, parents. And so it's important that you're able to discuss those differences, recognize those differences, respect those differences, and unite once a decision is made. Sometimes you might not agree with the decision, but if the majority of the board reaches a decision, it's important to unite behind that decision. It's also important to act with dignity, understand the implications of demeanor and behavior. And above all, confidential matters should be kept confidential. I know that's been discussed in the past. It's really important that confidential matters be kept confidential. If we could go to the next slide. So I've mentioned that board members should participate in professional development and commit time and energy to be informed and effective leaders. There should be an understanding of the distinctions between the board and the staff, and board members should refrain from performing management functions that are the responsibility of the superintendent and staff. That's why you hire the superintendent. That's why the superintendent hires staff, so that they can carry out your wishes, they can carry out your goals, they can carry out your vision. And also it's important to understand that the authority rests with the board as a whole, not individual board members. Individual board members are not vested with a legal authority under the education code or under state law. If you read the education code, you'll see that that power vests in the board itself as a whole. And that action is taken at board meetings, and that authority is exercised at board meetings. And then the other thing is to focus on closing opportunity gaps. There should be equal opportunity for all. And so that's one of the most important functions of the board and for board members. The district should keep the district focused on learning and achievement for all students, communicate a common vision, act with trust and integrity. It's really important that board members trust each other, trust the staff, trust the superintendent, and acting openly and with integrity is a way to build that trust. When you govern in a dignified and professional manner, treating everyone with civility and respect, then you're much more effective. And if you stay within your board adopted bylaws, policies, and procedures, you'll also be much more effective. When you don't follow those policies, that's when your credibility can erode and your effectiveness can dwindle. Other ways to be effective is to take collective responsibility for the board's performance, evaluate the board's effectiveness on a periodic basis, ensure opportunities for a diverse range of views in the community, and keep the community informed about board deliberations. So if we can go to the next slide. So here's an illustration of teamwork. So you have a board president, you've got members of the board. You have to look at it as a collaboration, as a partnership, that there should be a good relationship among the members of the team. There should be support for staff, and above all, carry out the mission. Once you reach a consensus as to what that mission is, you want to carry out that mission. So if we could go to the next slide. The board policies, a handbook, it could be a formal handbook, or it could be board policies and bylaws. Those are what really govern the board. If we could go to the next slide. So this slide talks about the unity of goals or unity of purpose, common focus, overarching goals, values and beliefs that the governance team shares about children, that, for example, that all children can learn, and that these achievement gaps can be closed, that the goal of public education is to help individuals to progress and to reach their potential. And some of the bullet points here are from CSBA: success for all students, promoting academic gains that propel students toward college and career, having an innovative and visionary view of education, not just in Orange County. I don't know, I should have changed that. That could be also LA County. That should be throughout California. Efficient and well run, standards of excellence, expect standards of excellence from staff, and be proud and supportive of the staff at every level. So if we could go to the next slide. Here are some common governance norms that CSBA has outlined in some of their materials. Give equal consideration and respect to all members of the team. Bring issues to the team. Don't surprise people. There should be no surprises. Refrain from taking things personally. Identify and clarify conflicts and work through resolution in a timely manner. Remain objective. Keep the focus on student achievement and needs. Conduct yourself in a professional manner. That's not just verbally, but in facial expressions, verbal behavior, body language. Listen to the members of the community, listen to others, listen to understand, extend grace to each other. Don't try to undermine others, don't try to make them look bad, and try to support everybody. Accept decisions by the board, respect everyone's time, consider new ideas and solutions with an open mind, allow the past to be the past and to move on, focus on the present and the future. Maintain confidentiality of information. These are all some of the governance norms that CSBA has laid out in their materials. If you keep these in mind, you're going to be a very, very effective board. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to questions.
Thank you, Ron. Tim? Tom?
So looking at the governance norms, listen, understand, extend grace to each other, that's obvious. When it comes to listening to the community, when 25 or 30 people come to a board meeting and state a position, is that what's meant to by listening and understanding everybody's position? Or
yes, I think, well, for example, we had earlier, we had a public speaker talk about her concerns about projects involving Edison and you know, potential electric projects. You know, listening to her, you know, considering her concerns, her point of view, not necessarily having to agree with her, but at least consider her point of view and listening to her and what other people might bring to the board. And there could be a divergence of views. There may be people who come to later board meetings who have a different point of view about these electrical projects. But I think it's important that the board listen and consider to what all members of the public have to say.
Oversee negotiation of labor and set. So to what extent is a board member to be involved when the superintendent or the HR is negotiating contracts, say with certificated teachers? So they come to us and they tell us what's going on. You know, we're supposed to provide not only oversight, but we're also supposed to provide direction. To what extent of direction are we to provide?
Well, my recommendation is if employees come to you to discuss the collective bargaining, but particularly when you have negotiations that are ongoing, you certainly should listen to them. And I would indicate to them that you will pass this information on to the superintendent and we'll pass it on to other members of the board at a closed session when we discuss negotiations. When the board discusses negotiations in closed session, I will pass your concerns on at that time. But I wouldn't offer, you know, any kind of solutions to that individual employee or make any commitments to that individual employee or indicate what the board might do in response to what the employee requested. I would just merely indicate that I understand what you're saying. You might want to summarize what that employee has told you, and then indicate that you'll let the superintendent know and you will communicate it to the board in closed session at the next board meeting.
Okay. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Oh, I should add that the board does provide direction to the superintendent and to the district's negotiator. So, you know, you formulate the position. Based on the budget and the resources that the district has, you decide, you know, what the offer should be. And, if we talk in terms of salary, let's say, for example, that the CSEA, let's just use CSEA as an example, has requested a 10% salary increase for the next year. You might discuss in closed session, how much that would cost, what's feasible, and then give direction to your negotiator as what the response should be at the bargaining table. And then there's usually some back and forth. CSEA might come back with something less than 10%, and then you might come back with something more than what you initially offered, and you go back and forth. So that's kind of the process. But there shouldn't be any discussion outside of that formal process with members of CSEA or CSEA's bargaining team. It should all go through the superintendent and the board's negotiator.
Okay, so just to follow up on that, what you just described takes place in closed session. So it would be appropriate for the board as a whole to give instructions to the negotiator to say, let's get those salaries up, or let's hold them where they are, and we can't afford to do this, or that type of instruction.
Yeah, that's typical of the discussion you might have. And there might be some disagreement among the board members. Let's say you're talking about, should we offer them 5%, or should we hold the line at 3%? Because that's all we can afford. Or should we change priorities, or should we make some cuts in the budget in a particular area so that we can afford the 5% salary increase? These are kind of the discussions that might take place, and there might be some disagreement. But once the board reaches a consensus, then all the board members should coalesce around that consensus, and the superintendent and the board's negotiator should carry out the direction of the board.
Thank you.
Ron, thank you for your time. I appreciate the reminder on what our purpose is, and just kind of reinforcing what a lot of us believe that our goals are and what we should be trying to do as board members. I specifically appreciated you taking the time for the slides on what our unity of goals need to be. Number one, committed to the success of our students' schools. Everyone that can probably touch every single person in the entire school district and our community. And I would encourage everybody to read through those again, just to understand them. Governance norms. There's a great, nice little characteristics of a healthy and well-functioning board that I hope that we always live up to those 12 items. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Ron, Ken Falls, you're up here. Thank you. I know that the CSBA training is 5 3/4 days. It's never in Acton. It's somewhere in Fontana or something like that. And having the commitment to that is basically blowing your entire weekend to go 5 weekends in a row. That is difficult. And then furthermore, I've seen some people go to the CSBA training and feel that their independence as a board member is being usurped, and everyone is taught to just bow to the superintendent regardless of the efficacy of that position. So I appreciate you covered everything, and thank you for being here this evening.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Ron. I don't have any questions. I just very much appreciate you putting this together for us and being here tonight for the board and staff and our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, maybe we should ask if anybody in the audience has questions.
I was gonna ask if that would be appropriate. Is that okay?
I believe so.
The board? Does anybody in the audience have questions?
Should we do slips?
Well, it's not a public.
Well, this isn't the town hall, this is an agenda item, so can we do split?
Jackie, if you want to just add it to your slip right here. Oh, sure. That'll be best. What agenda item is it? This is 7.
70. Wait, do yours.
Right there at the microphone. Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if this is quite on topic, but what sort of mechanism, is there a mechanism at the school board's disposal that would allow the school board to dialogue with members of the community about issues such as the electrical projects in a way that's got a back and forth and not just a one-way communication method. Like our workshops, what sort of things can the school district convene that would allow school board members in their capacity as school board members to engage in a back and forth with community members about, projects like the one I was talking about earlier? Thank you.
Well, I could answer that in a couple of ways. There's probably two main ways that board members could interact with this type of issue. One is individuals, because you're certainly citizens of the community, and you could, as individuals, take a position on these projects, and individually, as members of the community, lobby Edison or lobby the city council or the board of supervisors or whoever it might be, and give your individual opinion. You wouldn't be speaking for the board. The other part of that would be if there's some impact on the school district, or it somehow involves the school district, whether it might be an economic impact or some type of a contract that might take place with Edison, they might want to use your facilities or so on, then it becomes a school board issue. And that's something that you should discuss as a school board and reach consensus on, and you would put it on your agenda. And members of the public could speak to the board and give their opinions to the board so that the board can form an opinion as to how it should proceed. So it's not unusual for, say, a utility to want to lease some property from the school district for, maybe building an electric tower or whatever it might be. And so you might put that on the agenda. You might disclose what the terms of that might be to the public. Then members of the public could then interact with the board and give their opinion as to whether you should proceed with it or not. So there's a couple of different ways it could go, that type of issue could go. So I hope that answered your question. There might be other options as well, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Thank you. And we're gonna go ahead and loop back around.
So as a follow-up to agendizing an item, like Ms. Harris talked about, because it's agendized and we put our agenda out ahead of time, it's possible for the board to have more than a one-way conversation, correct?
Yes, you certainly could. It's on the agenda. You could open it up to having the members of the public speak to the particular item, or you could have a dialogue as long as you agendize it. When it's just public comments and somebody brings up an issue that is not on the agenda, then you can only make a brief comment. You can't have a full discussion. So if the board, for example, wants to talk about these electrical projects that this public speaker brought up, you'd have to put it on the agenda to have a full discussion about it.
What would you describe as a brief comment? Because I understand that we don't want to violate the Brown Act. We haven't agendized it. The public has not been introduced to the idea. They don't know what's happening. Public speaker comes up, says something, and you just said we can make a brief comment. So what would be the extent of that brief comment for the constraint?
A brief comment might be asking the superintendent to put it on the agenda for the next board meeting, or maybe saying that's an issue that I think has a lot of community interest and something that we should discuss as a board at our next board meeting. That would be a brief comment, something along those lines.
Any further discussion?
I have something. Ron, since you didn't do that, would you just describe your experience as a lawyer, start to finish, please?
My experience as a lawyer, start to finish.
Yeah. Summarize
Okay. Well, let's see. I graduated from law school in 1977, so I've been around a while. And I worked for county council in Kern County. I worked for schools in Kern County. I was general counsel for the Orange County Department of Education for 36 years. And I've been with a partner in the law firm of Atkinson Anderson, lawyer Rudin Romo, for almost just shy of 5 years. And so I've worked extensively with school boards and community college districts, for about over 40 years now.
So would it be accurate that the Orange County Office of Education is comparable to the Los Angeles County Office of Education? Would that be? At
Yeah.
least, yeah, and I think you said you were the head legal counsel for that
Right.
organization?
Yeah, I was head legal counsel for 34 years, and I worked there for 36 years.
So you moved up pretty fast to be the dude that they send when things get heavy and people are suing the county office of education. So
Yeah, I just happened to be in the right place when my predecessor left. So,
Well,
happens sometimes.
I would think that after 34 years, if you were in a good counsel, you wouldn't survive past that. So, yeah, that kind of speaks to why I don't have very many questions for you, counselor. Thank you.
All right, I don't have any further questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to 8 correspondence, proposals, and reports. ADA representative. 8B CSEA representative. 8C student representative to the board. We do not currently have a student representative. 8D superintendent gold standard report.
Thank you, Ms. Taxoni. Tonight I'll be covering one initiative from our strategic plan, student achievement. But before I do, I would like to extend my appreciation to Mrs. Kimberly Shaw, Assistant Superintendent. Sorry, just surprising you right out of the blue. It wasn't an easy feat managing multiple areas of responsibility, from ed services to HR to pupil services. Your dedication to education should be commended. Thank you for your lifelong commitment to the educational profession. We wish you a future that is worth every bit of hard work and dedication you have displayed. We wish you a retirement filled with joy, laughter, and all the things you love to do. We wish you best wishes, as well as to your family and your wonderful grandchildren, some of whom I've met, and they've cracked me up in the past. And they will enjoy you, I'm sure, immensely during your retirement. And if the community and I, on behalf of AADYC, many congratulations, Ms. Kimberly Shaw, on your retirement. Okay.
Excuse me, can we?
Yes.
Please. I asked if we could loop to make comments about Kimberly Shaw. So I'll motion that we loop around. There we go.
We ready? Ms. Shaw, you're in big trouble. You're getting ready to go back into retirement. Came out once. Now this time you need to assure yourself that you're going to stay retired and enjoy your family and your grandchildren. Thank you for your hard work and service to the community and to our school district. Thank you very much.
I'll echo to been here, thank you, and I think maybe my first introduction to you was during COVID over a Zoom. It was kind of interesting that we all got a little education there on what the future was going to look like, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all you've done. I did not know you personally before this or anything, so I only know the work I've seen, which has been professional. Well done. Hope you enjoy retirement. You have a garden or something? You gotta take up any extreme sports.
I'll let you know. I'll send pictures.
Ms. Shaw, you were brought in here to lead organizational excellence and diverse and new programs. Your timing was superintendent change outs, and I think you've been dealing with a lot of baggage that's been going on. And I'm not sure you're ever able to realize the vision you had for the school district. I'd like to apologize for anything anyone has ever said from that dais up here that was derogatory to you or your character. I've been nothing but pleased with you. The TOSA team that you built before you got here, we have to look at the signature programs that are on the district webpage and realize that those programs, whether they were built by the superintendent team or whatever, it took some effort. There wasn't a lot of noise and bragging and things like that. And so those programs have been rolled out, and to just put them on the webpage and call it an accomplishment, that's not anything. It's a measurable accomplishment. And all the things that are up there that are running every day that are a success, there's somebody out there in this district that's staff that's making that happen. It's not just a title on the page. I've been a veteran of a lot of back there. I know what you kind of deal with personally. I congratulate you for your candor and your temperament. Again, my wish for you is that you would have been focused on things other than HR or whatever we're trying to call that around here. I think one of the best things that you supported is, personally for me, the life skills program that you developed at the high school is going to become critical to the district's budget and our exposures. We don't have to have Ron up here and his team back there when we're talking about the most vulnerable kids in our community. If I were to vote to release you tonight, my vote would be no. Thank you, Kim Shaw.
Tim, you've created shoes so big that they're being divided. So that doesn't, if that's not a testament to the job that you've done, that moving forward, we need 2 people to fill your shoes. I don't know what is. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here, meeting after meeting. You're always over there. You're always ready to give your expertise, and just thank you and good luck.
Yes, thank you. Student achievement from our strategic plan. I'd like to extend our congratulations and well wishes to all of our promoting students from Meadowlark and High Desert. The last time we met was June 8th, and the following day was June 9th, and there was a lot of excitement from morning to late afternoon. So we are immeasurably proud of each and every one of our students promoting on to the next chapter of their lives, be it 5th grade or 9th grade. Congratulations, and enjoy the summer because it goes by very quickly. Last but not least, summer school, both at Vasquez and Meadowlark, started yesterday. It started off without a hitch. That doesn't happen by chance. I'd like to thank both Vasquez and Meadowlark staff for their mobilization of efforts, particularly Mrs. Nicole Salcedo. Thank you for logistics and putting things together. Our appreciation also extends to our incredible food services team. Thank you for providing breakfast and grab-and-go lunches for our students during summer school. And that concludes my superintendent report for the 23-22 school year. Thank you.
Thank you. 8E submissions. Do you have any submissions?
No submissions.
All right, 9A board comments. Tim?
Okay, so Board President Texel, he said I had to keep this short. Anyway, I want to thank all the students and congratulate all our students for making it through the school year, progressing from grade level to grade level, campus to campus. And as Dr. Taxoni, Dr. Sadakian said that there was a great promotion at the high school for our graduating seniors. And then our 8th graders coming up 3 Mustangs. And I want to give a shout out to the High Desert valedictorian. She said she was a little nervous, but she included in her comments, and I don't know whether it was she picked it up from somewhere, it was off the charts, where she said, well, I think the sky's the limit when there's footprints on the moon. And I thought that was really incredible. And so I was sitting next to Lester, and I said, what she just said? It was just really incredible to think that way. I've never thought that way. And I think about, she's absolutely correct. So kudos to her and all the good success that she's going to bring as a Mustang. Can't go without thanking all of our employees for the hard work they did throughout the year. Time to take a break. Though our CSA, many of our CSEA employees will be continuing to prep our campuses for fall. And I heard a comment the other day that teachers take vacation during the summer, and that's not necessarily correct. They just preparing for the fall. So they continue to work during their summer break. We all know about that. And consequently, thanks to our parents for choosing to have your kids join us at this, their adventures in education with our district. We appreciate them. In addition to Ms. Shaw, I want to put out my shout out to Coach Tarazi. He's been with the district for a number of years and has elected to transfer back to South or North Carolina. I forget which one. I said, it's going to be humid. You're not going to like it. There's big bugs. We tried to get him to stay, but he wouldn't do it. But I enjoyed him working with him when I was at the high school. He was our cross country coach. He was quite successful. And he participated in the Boston Marathon running all the time. Of course, he only weighs like 10 pounds. I mean, it's not a big deal. But he settled down, got married, has a child, and he is thinking better and beyond. And I want to wish him the best as he moves on to his new adventures on the East Coast, where it's hot and humid. There's bugs and snakes and alligators and all that stuff. So anyway, thank you for everybody. I want to thank the management staff for guiding the students. Dr. Sahaki, and thank you for your hard work throughout this school year. Make sure, Kevin, you only get a half a thanks because you've only been here 2 weeks, but you got a sharp pencil, and we look forward to you keeping us on track. Thank you all for your hard work.
The two graduations I attended, or the motions rather, were quite excellent. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the high school, but I understand that was quite the event as well. But I just wanted to thank Paula for stepping in at the Meadowlark and making sure that school was, they finished up nicely. The amount of emotion at their promotion was touching. I think everybody was almost in tears. And seeing the children say, why can't you come with us to High Desert? You know, it was pretty amazing. The High Desert was fantastic. You know, so thank you, Ms. Van Ornum, for doing such a wonderful job. And it was just a great event. Everybody was well behaved, people were quiet. It was just, the discipline was excellent. Both of those events. Little kids were excited, but they behaved extremely well. The discipline of the middle school, where we know we have, you know, that's where the kids don't like to pay attention to people, was amazing as well. So thank you both for those two events. Superintendent, your newsletter this time around, absolutely fantastic. So I want to thank you for that. The pictures of the graduation and everything in it. The content was just a nice mix of things. So it was kind of a nice read, just to say, hey, that's a good end to the to this actual school year. Yes. I want to talk a little bit about the strategic plan today, but I'm not going to do that because I think this battery storage thing is very important. This all kind of just came up and hit us, and I'll be very clear about where I believe as a school board member that we need to pay attention to this. Ms. Sarah did a fantastic job explaining why these battery storage units, storage facilities, which are basically utility scale generation plants, are not suitable for our community. The fire risks is probably the primary one, but the community has been going crazy over these things because nobody wants them in their backyard. And it's not a NIMBY thing. I don't want them in my backyard because it's ugly. I don't want them in my backyard because whatever reason, it's clear that they don't belong in a residential area. These things are gigantic. And if you want to compare how many lithium cells are in some of these proposed things, think of a stack of Teslas 85 miles high into the sky. That is the volume of lithium batteries that are going into these. The county and the state is not prepared to deal with anything that goes wrong on these battery projects. There are countless numbers of battery projects that have failed before they even came online. There are countless numbers that have come online and failed. So the track record here is not good. So here's where I believe it falls into a conversation that we as a board are going to have, and hopefully we'll agendize. And I'm talking about this in my board member comments because, again, this was not on the agenda, and I'm giving you me as a board member, my position on this and how I believe it affects our school board. So I'm not speaking for everybody here. I'm speaking for myself. And the community will hang us if we take any kind of compensation from one of these developers. It's clear from several hundred emails that I've read through of people opposing this project, and they're all legitimate. They're not form letters. People have done they very clearly specify why they don't want this. So problem number one is we live in a high fire danger area. Homeowners are losing their fire insurance on a daily basis. And when your homeowner loses their fire insurance, they're gone. And when we lose a family because they can't get fire insurance, we lose potential ADA. And this is going to affect us if these things come in, because these insurance companies are going to look at this and go, oh, you're fire danger, you're in a fire zone 4, the highest of all of them. All of us have been active as fire zone 4. And now you got a battery plant that is in fire zone 4 right next to us. 85 miles high static test. And I think everybody's seen one of those things on the news on fire at some point or another. So it's very clear, people say, if these things come in, I'm leaving. So if we get one of these battery facilities in here, I believe it's going to negatively affect our ADA. And many people have spoken up saying that potentially they will leave the area because this is the last straw. So the SB 205, which basically incentivizes community organizations like ours to take money or programs or physical property or anything in lieu of support, is going to put a lot of pressure on us. It's already started. We've already received, Dr. Sakian has already received emails from one of the largest developers that wants to do one of the largest projects. And we can't do this because there is no nexus between a battery storage facility that brings no battery storage, no backup to Acton, no positive, net positive of any kind to us that will go in here. There's no nexus with anything that I believe that we do here. So whatever grants or programs or things they want to offer us for support, I will not support a large scale battery facility at all, period, in this community. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That's a lot of good information on that. I happen to know a little bit about batteries, and when a battery fails, it's basically stored energy, and all the energy tries to leave at once. And that creates fire and explosion. So it's usually a chain reaction with all the nearby batteries. So I don't think it's something that we want in our community. We can avoid it anyway. So maybe that's my community member hat more than the board member hat, or both. But either way, it's something we want to see here. Big thank you for everybody for the way the year went. I think we said a lot about that last meeting as well, but I think we have a ton to be proud of, and everybody did an amazing job. Some adversity, but we overcame well. We got a chance to go check out. You go to see the football team yet? Watching the practice. Looking good. We have a good year next year. Putting luck, even though we lost a lot of our seniors. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, speaking of lynch mobs and the community lynch mob, I'm a survivor of a community lynch mob and assaulted rubber ducks as well. I'll start my comments by thanking Dr. Chamberlain and Ms. Van Hornum. The closeout of the school year was awesome. I think everybody felt comfortable. I think there was a lot of attention given to kids that were kind of maybe struggling at the end to get to the end of the line. And I appreciate that the school year closed with celebrations rather than chaos. Thank you very much. Ms. Sotego, if you're out there, thank you for championing the kickoff of the summer school program, the extended school year program. That's important to some of the most vulnerable kids in our community, but also kids that are trying to do credit recovery, and that's huge. Everybody's dignity coming back and being in the next grade with your peers and having your confidence back. So thank you very much for that. Okay, about this battery thing. I sat up here for the better part of almost 2 years with people coming in. Telling me, well, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna force this, I'm not gonna do any of that, never hit the light of day, I told you it wouldn't hit the agenda. Someone sitting up here, and I'm an opponent to this, and I'll tell you flat out, I don't sit here and tell them what to put on the agenda. I asked for floor space, I mentioned floor space, and it showed up in discussion last board meeting, and so staff, as the attorney will tell you, will put things on the agenda that are pertinent. I personally would not put this on the agenda. It has nothing to do with the school. The school will not take anything from anyone, and anyone that's sending the school district offers and letters, those are all publicly discoverable. But at the end of the day, the Acton Town Council is the advisory committee that deals with the county. We don't deal with the county of Los Angeles, we deal with the County Office of Education. I'm not sure what our attorney would say about us diving in the middle of it, taking a position. There is no position. None of these things are to be put on school grounds, none of them. The Acton Town Council, through their efforts, I don't get involved in the hoopla and everybody yelling and berating each other on television. I watch the county supervisors meeting. And if you watch that, the county supervisor backtracked very quickly on Acton. Her comments were, it doesn't belong in Acton. Well, just like the high-speed rail, we got these people saying, bring it through Palmdale because it'll create $38,000 jobs. And then at the end of the day, there's a lot more when the construction worker goes and buys a pack of Marlboros at the 7-Eleven, right? So we don't want to forget about that little fragment. So we've got economy to drive, we've got jobs to drive, and then there's the people on the Acton Town Council that start throwing fit and get her to say, I'm not sure Acton is the place. My reasoning behind it is if Acton is not the place, how's a more populous area the place? My big concern of the business I'm in, if you haven't seen Hoover Dam lately and you haven't seen the lake, I think what's happening is the generation capacity of that dam, when the water gets too low, the lights go out, and I think somebody's trying to get ahead of that really quickly by putting up whatever. I'm surprised they ain't got kids running generators off their bicycles by now. I'm not going to support any discussion of this at any level. I will be completely irate when I find out somebody's trying to grease their way in here. This does not belong here. My questions would be this, since we're going to give our little board members scientific comments, I will tell you this. From what I understand, that battery bank, one of them is situated between the 14 freeway and Soledad Canyon Road. It ends at a place that's barely as wide as this room. It's also my understanding Union Pacific Railway hauls all kinds of unknown substances in cars that go over, I don't know how far away it is, it's less than a quarter of a mile. So, I mean, if you want a disaster to happen, it's right there. It makes no sense to me. But again, Jackie, to you, this stuff gets approved through county process. And then nobody's coming and saying, hey, Jackie, here's kind of the impact on you. You have to discover it for yourself. You have to use your own personal skill set, which I have personally admired for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about particular availability stuff on lines and God knows what. But at the end of the day, I find it appalling that you have to be criticized, held out in court regard to the masses just because you'll give your time to stand up. I'm going to say we need to get a statement from the school, the district's attorney to ask what is our place in this and what is not our place in this, and whether it's appropriate that we show support for the Acton Town Council's position in opposition, because it's just obvious safety hazard to me. I don't know what else to say. It's pretty clear. Keep fighting, check.
First, I want to talk about the graduations and promotions. I know we were able to talk about the Vasquez graduation at our last meeting because it had just happened, but I do want to reiterate that we had 100% graduation rate. Whoever wasn't listening, that was 100%, and that's huge, and I've said it 5 times already. I'll probably say it 5 more, I'll bring it back up in August. The promotions at High Desert and Meadowlark were phenomenal. The flower arrangements were absolutely beautiful. That flower arrangement on High Desert's podium, that was a hawk, and then after, and I didn't see it, but after, I was like, how did I not see it? It was that hawk that gradually went into Vasquez's colors for our hawks moving on, flying on to Vasquez. It was absolutely beautiful. So thank you to all of our staff and parents, students for 3 absolutely beautiful ceremonies. Celebrating our 4th, 8th, and 12th graders. That was really awesome. My comments that I wanted to speak about on the battery, the proposed plans weren't to share my personal views, because I don't think that my personal views have any business up here as a board member. But I did want to bring up, you brought up that they were reaching out, or were going to be reaching out and trying to get support from the community. I just wanted to say that they have already reached out to different nonprofit organizations and offered to make big donations to nonprofit organizations, but they did it through a PR firm. So I have those emails if you wanted to see them later, not right now, obviously. But they didn't say I'm from this battery, proposed development. They said on behalf of somebody that I work for, we are reaching out, and did not say the company until we went back and asked. So just so you know, and everybody out there is aware that they're not just forthcoming with who they're representing, they're just saying, we want to make a big donation, and their name is not attached to it. So just so you know, to watch for that if any other nonprofits or organizations in the community have been approached, that's what's happening. That's all I have to say about that. So moving on to 10A, approval of consent calendar items. It's recommended the Board of Trustees approve the consent calendar items 8B through 8G as submitted. Can I get a motion?
I'll move. Second.
Discussion or changes to anything?
No changes.
I'd like to discuss that with you real quickly.
Okay, so no changes. Discussion, we'll start with Tim. Okay,
So on F and G is developers that were, well, individuals that were going to build houses, decided not to build houses because of economy or whatever other reason. Asking for the fees back, which I think is completely legitimate. The only question I have is, if we refund these fees as recommended, is the county notified that the fees have been sent back to the potential developer? Just so if they pop up again in the future and say, hey, I'm back, I want to bring my permit back. The county sometimes helps with getting those reactivated without fully charging all the fees again. So I just want to make sure that if they do come back because the economy gets better or whatever, the county doesn't, and if we return their fees, the county's aware that they have to pay them again.
Yeah, sure. So those are what they're issued from the school district is a COC, certificate of compliance. And those typically only have a 90-day valid license. So if they were to try to go back and show them that same thing, that would be an invalid certificate. So they'd have to come back to the school district and reapply and get a new certificate of compliance at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Lester.
I have some questions on E, which was the annual contract. So I assume these are all not to exceed numbers that are part of that contract.
That is correct.
And if there's any increase to it, they come back to board for approval on all those.
Yes.
What I didn't see on there, which I think we should try to put on there at some point, or at least I would suggest that we try to look at doing any sort of MSA agreements for any of the recurring service companies that we utilize. A lot more companies that we pay on a regular basis that we can put into this form of agreement, so it's more of a current agreement or just a stated contract about it.
Yeah, that is actually especially with our special ed, companies, the SELPA is still finishing up their master services agreement that they put out to all of the districts within the SELPA. So that's one of the MSAs that we would be bringing back, especially because, all the districts in this valley and Santa Clarita, and they all have a, like I said, a template that we would use for those. So that will definitely be coming with any of the upcoming special ed contracts, but we look at making it.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right, call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Cost I.
Mascot.
Falls, you have by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. 11A, personnel action report.
Move.
Second.
No changes, but I'd like to make a comment. Of course, we're always excited for all of our new hires. I'd like to mention our district has hired our first ever licensed clinical social worker, Miss Elizabeth Ortiz. Ironically, not ironically, an extra added point there. She is a graduate of Vasquez 2006, and she's coming back to us, and she'll be serving as our first licensed clinical social worker under a Department of Justice grant. So congratulations to Ms. Ortiz and all our new hires. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
Thank you for clarifying that name, because I said, wait a minute. Anyway, that should be a great asset, great addition to the district.
No more discussion? Call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Cost I.
Lester Mascot.
Falls, you have by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. 12A, navigate 360, PBA, holy moly, let's start over. 12A, navigate 360, PBIS rewards and avid advisory presentation. Dr. Zahakian.
All right, good job.
Second.
It's not an action item, but thank you very much.
Put up historical monument, that would be the first.
Lester Mascot.
Listen, grandpa down here, he moved it, I just seconded.
And I'll do the intro. So presentation, thank you, sir. Presentation of a SEL curriculum for the high school, Navigate 360, PBIS rewards incentives, and of course, avid advisory presentation. So we're going to go ahead and patch in Mrs. Alexa Lepp. Yeah, she should be on. She's not on, but she's sent a video. Oh, it's a video. It's a presentation video. What do I know? But thank you, Mrs. Alexa Lepp. She's a phenomenal TOSA with our ed services and a phenomenal human being. So with that said, Alex.
Hi everyone, I am Alexa Lepp. I am the TOSA at Vasquez High School. I am so sorry I can't be there in person to do this presentation with you today, but luckily technology, it can be our friend where I can still give this to you to give you a glimpse of the exciting things to come to Vasquez next school year. Although I'm the only one presenting to you tonight, there is a wonderful group of people who were on this team to bring this information to you. So I can't help but also want to recognize them. And that is Jana Largent, Nicole Salcedo, Tiffany Quezada, and Dr. Chamberlain. So thank you to the fellow team members. And I'm really excited to show you what we have in store for next school year. We're going to be adding a new class basically next year that every single student is going to be a part of. Already at our middle school, we have Avid Advisory, and this is something that we wanted to make sure we continued throughout their experience at Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District. So Vasquez High School is also going to be having Avid Advisory. It's going to be every day for about 35 minutes. This is a time where we're going to do our MTV amazing announcements and videos that they share every day with us. But it's also a time that we're going to be focusing on PBIS, which is our positive behavior intervention support, as well as MTSS, which is our multi-tiered support system. And this is basically different frameworks that we can use to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the whole child. Instead of just focusing on what goes on academically throughout their day in their classes, we're going to be using this advisory time to make sure that we're also giving them different supports based off of the grade level they have, and to just celebrate when they're doing good behaviors. So tonight I'm going to be presenting Avid Advisory as well as Navigate 360, which includes PBIS rewards and a social emotional curriculum through something called Suite 360. So within advisory, this is all about building relationships. Each student is going to be with a specific staff member or a teacher that is going to be guiding this advisory period. This is a time for us to be able to help with accountability for our students, to have a post-secondary focus. And overall, this is a time for us to most importantly create a more supportive school community for our students. We are going to be separating our advisories by grade level. So in each grade, we have targeted structures and lessons where each day of the week we have a different focus with our students. We are currently building this, and we're also going to be going over specific social emotional curriculum that is tiered according to what grade level they're in. That will be done through Suite 360, which I'm going to be addressing here in a few minutes. But before we get into the SEL curriculum, I really wanted to talk about PBIS rewards. So at a recent conference that the district sent us to, we learned about a tool called PBIS rewards. Now, PBIS rewards is an incredible platform that basically gives us a positive climate where we can reward students for good behavior that we notice. I do have a quick video to talk about an overview, and then I'll sum up the main points that we want to bring to Vasquez High School.
Is your PBIS program creating stress for your staff? Are paper tickets or punched cards causing headaches? Is PBIS becoming a four-letter word at your school? PBIS Rewards is the affordable solution that makes PBIS enjoyable and effective. PBIS Rewards makes recognizing positive behavior as simple as a mouse click. Any staff member at your school can recognize any student at any time in just seconds. In the classroom, you can use our group portal to award selected students or the entire class. With our amazing smartphone app, teachers can reward students anywhere they're caught doing the right thing. The hallway, the cafeteria, on the playground, even on the school bus. Because points are electronic, you never have to worry about how a student became so wealthy or to figure out how to console a student who sent their paper tickets through the washing machine. Teachers, students, and parents can track progress, and administration can see school-wide reports to see the successes and the places where coaching may be needed. Students can use their points at your PBIS store with the included PBIS Rewards Store Management System. Students can also use their points to participate in field trips and other school events through the PBIS Rewards Event Management System. And if you don't have an electronic system for tracking office referrals, you'll want to look at our advanced referral system. It's easy to use and gives you consolidated reporting so you can see directly how PBIS is positively impacting your office referrals. And don't forget about teachers. Our Teacher Rewards add-on package lets teachers get the recognition they deserve as well. PBIS Rewards will help you change the climate of your school, so it's a great place where students can grow academically, socially, and emotionally.
As a staff, this is something we were so excited once we found out. These are the different things that we really wanted to bring to our school culture, especially when it comes to PBIS. So we wanted to be able to reward good behavior and to have it all built into one system where they could use their points or, money. It's basically our own little Mustang economy for them to purchase something that they want to be rewarded with, whether that be a homework pass or there's many different ways that we could do that to build a Mustang community that feels very supportive and exciting. So we're currently working with students to figure out what they want to redeem their points on. But also we are going to have, it mentioned a referral system where you can pull points to figure out ways that we can support students who may need more support. So we are going to be moving forward with that program as well. But basically, we're very excited to get started with this. Our staff has already been introduced to it, and it's something that everyone can't wait to implement at Vasquez High School. Last but not least, the thing that I also wanted to present to you today was Suite 360, which is the upcoming social emotional learning platform that we would like to use at Vasquez. So currently in our lower elementary school, as well as our high school, we have Second Step, which is a social emotional learning curriculum. And right now we don't have anything that quite does the same thing at Vasquez High School. And we realize there is a big need for this. So we wanted to do, we were looking for different programs, and the one that really stood out to us that we absolutely loved was Suite 360, which is basically an online program. There are many benefits when it comes to this program that are unlike others. There are scaffolded lessons that are specifically built for high school. So we worked with our counselors to be able to determine if these were appropriate for our students and how they would be appropriate. And of course, it's something that addresses everything that's needed within high school. So that is fantastic. It is also engaging, as I mentioned earlier. Gamified learning is something that's really cool with kids. It keeps them engaged and has them learning the content in a way that they understand. There are many diverse topics that it addresses, so academic success, bullying prevention, college prep, effective communication, growth mindset, relationship skills, responsible decision making, and self-management. And then finally, it does have electronic record keeping, so we're able to see how effective the program is with our students if they're truly understanding the topics. And it helps us also have records of how students are feeling, which I think is really important to know if there's ways that we can address needs that may come in the future for our kids. Once again, I'm so sorry I can't be there in person, but I hope this gave you a little glimpse into the amazing things to come at Vasquez High School with our AVID advisory program, PBIS rewards, and Navigate 360 with Suite 360 specifically for our social emotional learning. Thank you so much and have a great night.
All right, discussion, Tim?
I don't have much, but I'm just like very, very impressed with the progress we're. As an avid instructor way back when, we had the very preliminary parts of it, but it still impacted all of our students. It still does. I still use it today, and that's some of my organizational part. So I know it's a great foundation, but I see that it's expanded exceptionally. And the 360 and the PBIS, can't say enough. Good work to everybody. Thank you, Ms. Love. And it's going to be an exciting year for all of our students at the district and at Vasquez.
I just appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you.
I think it's very exciting, putting sort of programs in place, and I hope they get a lot of use. I think our students will mimic and enact the things that they see us celebrating. So when we celebrate positive activities, then that will push other students, or at least encourage other students to enact those behaviors as well. Will the use of this by the staff be compulsory?
Well, I'll ask Dr. Chamberlain, Vasquez principal. I know she shared this information with her staff at a most recent staff meeting. Dr. Chamberlain.
Yeah, so the pluses, I would say we have 100% buy-in. Teachers are really excited. They want to do this. They're looking forward to it. The support we're providing to help teachers implement it is, I think, what's pushing it forward. And if you have the opportunity, which I had, just to watch our staff be so excited about wanting to do this, like I can't wait to see them do it. So I believe, I mean, as far as compulsory is, the answer would be yes, but in the end, I can never make you do anything if it's not something that you want to do and that you believe is best for kids. Our staff does believe this is the best for kids, and I believe that they will implement it with fidelity. And along the way, they will get 100% support from myself and our other staff members to implement it. Even with, like, you know, but we maybe have bumps in the road, like, well, this is hard, we didn't expect this. How will we address that? And we will work together to find ways to support our kids so that we can address, implement it with fidelity.
I mean, it seems like such a powerful program. I mean, it could really make a difference in school with something like this. So I think it's fantastic. I just, when this comes up for renewal, buy this again the following year. I'm going to ask if you could show me the effectiveness of the program, what you believe changed, and what the adoption rate is among the teachers, how many are using it, not using it, that sort of thing. I think if we need to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be excited to share that information with you. I follow the data. The data gives us the information that really helps us to support our decisions, to make sure that we're doing is supporting students. And I mean, even Ms. Van Ornament, I have kind of like side talked already. It would be great to see this district wide, because the second step curriculum already is K-8. And it works at high school, but with the Navigate 360, now we have something that's specific for high school. So we'll look at like, was this really a good fit, or would it be, we could use second step? So we'll be doing the same thing as far as looking at the effectiveness of the program.
God, we trust all of us bring data. So, are we extending the reading the staff package as well?
Say that
The
again.
teacher staff package as well? There was a staff package mentioned where the.
Yeah, we'll start with the kids first.
Okay,
And I mean, it'll all come together, but it will really start with the kids first, and then, yeah, but we're gonna try to do it all. But I think that we'll, do it in steps. I know for the teachers, their focus is really on, so this year we did really good at starting this, but we didn't have really good, like, set rewards and ways to document and follow what kinds of rewards we were giving kids. So it made it hard to track where our progress, like what was really causing the improvements that we had. So we're definitely going to focus on kids first, and we'll build to staff. I think by the end of the year, they'll have that data and information for you.
it'd be interesting if we do decide to roll out staff, but it ends up being all staff to the kid, and otherwise, like even maintenance everywhere. Like it ended up being a way to include everybody in that reward system for.
Yeah, absolutely. Positive reinforcement, I think, for all of us is a motivating factor.
My only other question is, based on the description that we saw and based off some of the other things that we're being asked to approve tonight and the recurring contracts that we have in place, there's overlap between a lot of these things. So when we put something like this in place, what are we dropping that may fit some other pieces here? We're all paying attention to our budget right now, so.
So we don't have anything that's the positive behavior intervention system reward. We have second step, but second step, which is the social emotional curriculum, only is K-8. It's not specific to high school. So this program, we really were looking at the PBIS rewards part only. LACO suggested it to us, and I saw it at the Q conference, so we dug into it more, and our whole leadership team dug into it, shared it with staff. From that research, we learned more about that they had a social emotional curriculum for high school. So we thought we would explore that as it relates to supporting our students and the second step curriculum, like creating continuity K-12. And so my question will be, does the Navigate 360, does it really meet our needs for 9-12? Or could we do second step K-12? It's not designed K-12, it's designed K-8. But as an administrator, I used it before 6-12, and my secondary teachers gave us really great feedback and really liked it. And we actually, because we've had second step, we used it at Vasquez this year for anti-bullying and put together like a 6-week program for our 9th graders, and it was really successful and it was great. So I think second step has a lot to offer. But I want to look at specifically what's designed specifically for our high school students to see if that would address their needs more specifically. Does that make sense?
It does completely. I'd love to see you back in here at like the midterm. Just to
I'll be happy to come back and
come
share.
back
with you where we
and
are.
share the successes and things that you like, love. So,
Yeah, I definitely be happy to share that information.
thank you.
Democracy in the work environment, that's not something I'm familiar with, but thank you for sharing. I had some questions for Ms. Slapp, but she took care of that, didn't she? What a smart individual. But I've checked with my consultants. You're welcome for me bringing these two in here to explain, and answer all your questions. Bravo to you too. Next.
I love it, and I love the presentation. I was a imagining Miss Lev sitting there just talking to nobody and being so excited to herself. And then and then if anybody hasn't seen her in action, like with students, take what she can do, just, to nothing to her computer. And imagine what she can do with students. She's just a phenomenal person. So I love even watching itty bitty Miss Left in the program. She definitely is fun, and it was a beautiful presentation, and she's definitely very good at what she does. So thank you to Miss Left and the whole team. It was a whole team of people. So thank you all for all of this, and I'm excited, like Lester said, I'm excited to see that data in the end. Okay, 12B, TCI K-12 Social Studies Textbook Adoption. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Dr. Sahakian?
Thank you. Mrs. Shaw, this is your second to last agenda item with us under Ed Services, Pupil Services. Comments? Take it away. 12B.
This?
Sorry about that. TCI is our new social studies curriculum. The social studies committee consisted of Nicole Chun was the chair. We had Aaron Zwern was the special education representative. We had Jay Mead from the middle school and Amanda Winokur from the high school. And they piloted the program this school year, and they have chosen TCI as our new social studies curriculum for next school year. So this is like a 7-year quote, some of the items that are consumable. And you see the digital on the last page is digital. So every 7 years, that's a 7-year license for those products. And some of the consumables are 7 years out. So the total for the products that we're purchasing are $201,159.33 for K through 12.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion?
Well done. All right, Kathy.
These, we looked at all these, just out of curiosity, the group you just mentioned, and they picked these. This is a departure from what we've had.
Yes, there's a state adopted approved list of books you can choose from. And they looked at this one and they looked at McGraw-Hill, and they've been on display here for the community to come in and look and other teachers to look. But these specific people actually used it in their classroom to pilot it to see if they liked it. And all of the people on the committee chose this one above the other. There was, when we met at the last, like 3 or 4 weeks ago at the end of the piloting, all of them voted for this one.
Great.
So we didn't even have to have any, discussion as far as somebody liking one or the high school wanting one different than the others. Everybody was on board for this one. It was like hands down the best one.
Yeah, I'd love to try before you buy. That's smart.
Yes.
Lester?
Hear my ignorance on it, the school board, the school districts pay taxes,
Yes.
but you don't pay in the state of California the taxes on digitally delivered software.
50%.
There's special tax rules on that.
There are.
It depends on if you get a tangible.
It's calculated on full rate. I was just looking at that, look at the quotes.
It's funny because they give us the money and then they tax us on the money.
Okay, only I will ask this question. There's no surprises for Acton in this, right? My parents are gonna have to get an attorney to discover that I'm trying to identify as a kitten or anything like that, right?
Right.
Good, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any discussion, so we'll go ahead and vote, call for question. All those in favor?
Take Jared tonight.
Meow, yes.
Cramping into it, don't you?
Lindsay Darts?
Yes.
All right. Paul Scrapp, aye.
Brianna Taxoni, aye. 12C, declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Can I get a motion? I'll second. Dr. Salakia?
Ms. Shaw, your last agenda item under Ed Services, Pupil Service.
We fill this out for potential positions that we are unable to fill. Each year, so these could be positions that are high need that we're unable to fill. Currently, we did fill the math position, we filled the PE position. We still have a CTE position to fill, we filled the social studies position and the science position. So we don't currently have them open, but they are high need positions throughout the state, so we potentially could. So this is just in case, we're letting the LACO know that we might need these positions.
Thank
So
you.
this is
Discussion.
the
Sorry.
declaration of need form, sorry.
Thank you, Jen. Discussion?
Does this allow us to use teachers that may not be credentialed in a particular subject? Is that what this is?
Yes, like we could use interns, people that are currently in a credentialing program, earning their credential. So they're not fully credentialed yet, they're just in a program, yes.
Lester?
Nothing.
All those in favor?
Good, York.
Cost of nine.
Falls Chad, aye.
Brianna Texani, aye. 13A, we tip anonymous reporting solution quote. All motion?
Second.
Thank you. This is, if approved, funded from one of our Department of Justice grants for the amount of $4,393. It's a web-based electronic anonymous reporting platform. Something very similar to, we put this out there, you see something, say something. This is the platform to do it, and where we could go ahead and be notified of any potential dangers, not just to make sure that there is heightened safety on our campuses and heightening student safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, call for question. All those in favor?
Jim Jorgensen.
Cost of nine.
Falls Chad, aye.
Brianna Texani, aye. 13B, Schmoop University Incorporated Code for Educational Resources. Can I get a motion?
Schmoop, there it is.
Second.
It is catchy, Schmoop, yes. Heartbeat is the platform that we're gonna have a short presentation from our Schmoop representative, Ms. Kelsey Olson. Probably never got that type of intro, right, Ms. Kelsey? It is a learning science tool whereby students during an identified class period, could be advisory, could be a identified period during the day, period 1, period 3. They'll take an assessment to assess the non-academic factors that could impede on academic and student achievement. This is also grant funded through our DOJ grant, where we could actually support a multi-year contract, and you see the amounts on the agenda. And without further ado, thank you, Ms. Olson, for sticking with us throughout this evening. Take it away.
Hello, good evening. Thank you all for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Whoever said Schmoop, there it is. I appreciate you. That's my thing. I just love it. We've been around for about 15 years in the ed tech space. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is we've invested a lot of time and energy recently in the last few years on personalized learning. How do we elevate what our individual kiddos need? So we started out to create Heartbeat by asking teachers and counselors kind of the simple question of what would impact student learning the most in your classroom? What would elevate your outcomes? And they all said kind of an overwhelming majority that they just wish they knew their kids better. And their gut feelings were actually extremely aligned with the neuroscience that tells us that relationships really matter to effective learning and teaching. It was actually really in line with what they were discussing a little bit while ago in AVID, and that connectivity and that, importance. And so that's what Heartbeat's core was going after. And like Dr. Sahakian shared, actually, if you want to go to the next slide, we wanted to uncover those non-academic things that we know impact academics so that we could help teachers and leaders and counselors and students have a better idea of what they need in order to be their best self when it comes to learning. So we essentially know from research that a student's emotional background, their cognitive position and posture, and their backstory are all things that really matter when they enter your classroom and how they learn that day. You know, are you sleeping? Can you see the board? How did your peers make you feel today? Those are all things teachers and counselors and students wish they understood how it impacted them. And that's what Heartbeat does. So we ask students questions. There's over 5,000 of these questions. So it's a humongous pool, and students actually drive the experience. So they're choosing which questions they want to answer, all around those factors. And then we give the students back that data so that they actually understand themselves as learners. Some kids have called it like a school horoscope. And then for teachers, we actually give them pedagogical strategies and pivots so that they understand what they can do when they understand the temperature of their classroom, right? If you keep clicking a little bit, it continues on the slide here. Counselors and your staff, it gives them the ability to be more proactive than reactive. And that's kind of the direction we've talked about going in. And lastly, it gives you the data so that you can connect all the things that you're trying to do with the students and what they're trying to tell you back. And that's kind of what I keep hearing, right? Let's look back at the data. Let's see how it's doing it. And these quick questions we're going to be asking the kids every day is going to bring you that live formative data so you can see how you're looking over time. If you go to the next slide, what we end up helping districts do is connect those in classroom moments with those kids to your bigger strategy. So portrait of a graduate, or, you know, the different strategies that you have and goals that you want your students leaving your district with when they graduate. So over time, this is our goal for you, is to give you data that can help you measure these kinds of competencies. This is kind of what the platform data looks like. So you can see students' superpowers, their challenges. You can get that quick glanceable view of how your student classroom is looking. And one thing I want you to notice is there's no red, yellow, and green. You know, we're really trying to make sure that this data is not labeling our students and providing a positive environment so your teachers can really engage with your kids. So with that said, I'm trying to be short and sweet here. We're really excited about the things that we can be bringing to that advisory period and to your classrooms. Open to answering any questions, and I'm your contact for any further discussion or questions that you might have later on as well.
Thank you, Kelsey. If I could just share for our trustees in our community, you know, as we're looking to update our strategic plan moving forward for the 23-24 school year, we're adding the addition of a graduate profile for our seniors as they leave our district and moving on to post-secondary options or a career. Making sure that we have some measurable items within the graduate profile that can be assessed by the Heartbeat platform, as Kelsey mentioned. And so working with multiple districts, we've tied many of these factors to the graduate profiles that exist with these districts. And we are looking forward to doing the same for our students and our graduate profile.
Thank you. Discussion, Tim?
Yes, so as a former teacher, I was always concerned about the environment of my classroom, or the learning environment, and how I could best access the students to keep them engaged. Part-time, I'm retired, but then I was working with the university and I was visiting some of my candidates in their classrooms, and I was noticing that in 2 or 3 of the different locations, in the very beginning, are these questions that the teachers will ask of, is anybody, how you doing today? What's your favorite thing that happened this weekend? That kind of stuff.
So the questions are not editable by teachers because they are written and vetted by child psychologists and peer reviewed by, you know, so many layers of professionals that make sure questions we're asking students are inherently safe. However, they are exactly what you're saying. Have you eaten today? Have you slept? You know, things that are able to get that pulse of the student that you're looking to get when they walk in the classroom. And then the teachers can see that data live. So if they just go in and answer a couple questions, literally 2 minutes, and they hit refresh, they can get a gauge of, oh, my class is feeling a little anxious today. Or, hey, I've got a couple kids that didn't have a good weekend. That's the type of thing that we're trying to provide. So that's a great example. And thank you for sharing that.
Well, you said that key word anxious. My students are anxious because that was some of my conversations following my observation of their classroom. And I said, how did that go? And they immediately went into that. Well, I detected in my initial beginning of the classroom that I've never heard this program. I'm assuming it's similar to what they're using in their district. And over the period of the semesters, I would see distinct changes in the students, and they're interacting with with their other peers, with their teacher, volunteering to participate in discussions. So if this is anywhere close to that, this is a great program. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you. That's super encouraging.
I think you may have answered my question. So it's a couple of minutes for each class. So it would be, these questions would be answered when they walk in and they sit down, they spend a couple of minutes. Is that correct?
It is, yes. And there's different times and periods where it would make most sense for it to occur. We've discussed it being during that advisory time, or potentially like, a first and third period classroom on Mondays and Fridays. Like, it doesn't need to be every day, but it needs to be some kind of consistent rhythm and used as like a do now, or something that is just a few quick minutes before starting class.
And if there's something that the child comes in and says, I've had the most horrible time, and it raises to the level of some intervention needs to happen. So how's this monitored in terms of these results that they put in versus, any action that might need to be taken?
That's a very good question. Actually, the next slide gives a little bit of some of these FAQs so that maybe you could read through them, and it would, the next one, slide 8, I think. But one of the things that's really important to note is this is not a mental health tool. It's not a crisis intervention tool. So the questions that we're asking are going to raise yellow and orange flags at most. And we will be having counselors and admins have access to this data. And so you will be able to see if a student is answering questions over time that are showing that they feel a tendency to be lonely or have anxiety. Those are the two factors that are kind of the most bringing alarms to you, right? That's kind of the stakes, because it's a learning science tool and it's supposed to be geared toward how can instructional practices be altered based on how students are. It doesn't get into where we would see something that would cause a red flag and necessary intervention. However, the whole goal is to be proactive, not reactive. And so this is a tool that kind of helps prevent over time things like that. But I thank you for asking. I hope I answered your question there.
So if I understand correctly, the questions that are asked are not going to be the type that would bring red flags. That's
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will this, is the questions reactive at all? If the student answers the same way every single day on a certain topic, but does it change from day to day based on the student? Is it personalized to them at all? Is there any AI to it developed?
Yeah, it's adaptive. So again, because the students have choice, it's good because it's giving them agency and it's also getting their real answers, right? If you have a fixed survey, they're kind of forced to answer it, and there's no real incentive to, be honest, right? And one of the things that we need to do when we start the product and we launch it is kind of get that student trust. They have to realize it's not a game they're trying to win, or that nobody can see their answers. So it doesn't really matter if they're like, kind of goofing off. They can see the results and how it's occupying. And so that helps change that. And the adaptive nature will allow, if a student is kind of answering on what we have is like a Likert scale, if they're answering a certain question that's tagged to a factor on a far side of the Likert scale a lot, it could trigger additional questions that help us to understand more of what they're trying to experience. But in general, the algorithm is going to give them exposure to all of the questions kind of continuously, so that even if they are trying to only answer a certain type of question, like let's say they're only answering questions about their preferences or their cognitive opinions, we're going to still pull up other questions, but there is kind of that adaptive nature built in so that we can kind of dig deeper when we're starting to see trends. I hope that answers your question.
It does. A couple more for you. Are there any APIs so that we can include other data into this as well, like maybe connected into their grades, missing assignments from Aries, to actually pull together more information about the student?
Yeah, so we don't collect any student data outside of like the information we'll grab from like Clever, which is all we need in order to create an account. So with that said, we have an amazing dashboard that you can use, and you can download reports and align them to what you have. But we would have to have further discussion if there was connectivity or integrations with your current products, because we don't collect any of that data. So it would be something that we would have to receive from something else. But we're always happy to see how we can help you leverage the data more effectively.
Possibility of electronic data available. So it seems like if you could pull that together, you might get a better picture, understanding more earlier warning signs,
Absolutely.
that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good question.
Thank you.
My only thing I was, when we did see the presentation on your piece, there was a mention of this type of program in it, but it wasn't actually add-on module. So we should make sure that we don't buy that particular module that asks questions.
This is more like a daily check-in, and you kind of daily what's going on with your kids. The program that we have is more of a teaching, like it teaches concepts and it's a curriculum.
Okay. I specifically saw a part where it had said about the daily check-in stuff on the other one. I thought when I looked at the documentation, I could have been wrong.
And there may be a daily check-in piece, but it's also a curriculum. So
Okay, yeah.
should we create a module like for anti-bullying or depression or teen suicide prevention and resources for kids? Like it's a whole curriculum that we be teaching in like 8 week segments,
Okay.
which is different than what Schmoop does.
Understood.
But together, they work well together.
I was going to say, we usually pair very well with a curriculum. A lot of times, if you're using a curriculum, someone who's running it can use the data that's inside Schmoop to kind of decipher, do we do this module right now or this one? Because look at what the students are kind of telling us. And there's lots of tips inside of it for teachers to kind of use alongside the curriculum, but this is so not a curriculum. So it's usually used in alignment with each other.
I love it. Power BI or Google Analytics or something to pull it all together. Just so like, I mean, you have so much data available, but it's all in these silos. So trying to get that together in one mix would probably make a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can see participation reports on this in the midterm.
Yes. Kelsey.
Yes. So if you're given permission to see the dashboard, you can see real-time engagement reports. And you can also create your own custom ones inside of it. So if there are specific things that you're trying to search by a certain classroom, factors that you're wanting to hone in on, there's a whole custom ability to create those reports. And then we can share out that data to you in addition.
Given my psych profile, I'll leave this to the expert, Brianna.
Dr. Sahaki and I started talking about this, maybe a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago. So I'm very excited to actually see it, on the agenda and coming to our district. So this was in, one of my board president's goals is this mental health piece of it, and the way that we are able to, track, measure, this piece for each student. So I'm extremely excited for it. The only concern that I would have would be it actually being utilized on the campuses in the classroom teachers actually doing it. It would have to be a few minutes set aside, and a teacher would have to say, log in and do this, take these couple questions. So that would be where my concern is. So if we're gonna spend $9,750 or almost, $35,000 or $25,000 on a program, well, we need to see where we're actually using it. That's my only reservation on getting something that doesn't, like the other presentation that we had where the teachers already have 100% buy-in. And they're coming to us saying, can we get this? This is us telling them, we're getting this for you and you're gonna use it, and that there's having the buy-in from the staff at the school sites is a reservation for me, but I think it's an amazing tool, and this is something that I have been pushing for. I think it's going to be great for our district and for our staff to see where our students are in things that they typically don't talk about. Some kid is not going to walk into class and say, I'm struggling with this, or I'm having this anxiety, or I'm, this is happening in my life. You're going to throw their backpack on the ground and sit in the back of the room with their head down, and they're not going to listen. And to be able to have something for them to just say, I'm not having a great day. It's huge. So by answering, and sometimes they don't even know what's wrong. So answering the different questions to help them find what's wrong, to help the teacher help them, and help the teacher help their whole class. I think this is an amazing tool. So thank you very much for staying until 9:30 at night to give us this presentation. I really appreciate it. It is something that I've been asking for, and I think we've maybe had no less than 10 conversations about it. So thank you very much, Dr. Sahakian, for bringing this to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much. Pleasure to meet you all.
You too, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion. First, on the agenda, the line says it's recommended the board choose the duration of contract and approval quote for WeTip educational resources. If we could just make sure to change that we're recommending to choose the duration of the contract and approval of quote for University educational resources. That would be great. So this is a two-part vote. So we need to decide if we're going to do 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. And then we need to vote on that contract. So can we just go down the road and talk about what duration we would like to see as a board? And if there needs to be more discussion in that, we'll go ahead with that.
So Madam President, you're going to talk about the first point, duration of time.
Yeah, we'll discuss the duration first and come to a conclusion as a board.
And then we're going to move on to the other.
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking about duration.
Duration.
All right, so I'm in favor of doing the 24 months. So 1 year is it takes time to get everybody, and I think she mentioned it there, is that we gain the students' trust. And I'll just share what I observed in my university observations. It increased from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. I would go into the same classroom and I would watch, and they had this routine going, and now it was 4 students out of 25. Now it's 13. So it may not be 100% of the students, but it'll be that growth process. Staff will come on board. They're not all going to jump in. They got the teachers are some of the hardest ones to get to teach old dogs new tricks. I would love this as a teacher to help me gauge what is the environment. So we need more than a year. I'd like to go right in the middle, about 24 months, and then look for renewal.
Okay, thank you. Tom, what would be your opinion?
So this is going funded, correct?
Right.
And we have funding for 36 months as well.
Correct.
So if we were to do a 24-month, is there any chance the state of California, whoever gave us a grant, which one covers this, would rescind or change the terms so we couldn't afford another year? Or
No, it doesn't impact the duration of the grant supported services, does not minimize the funding as well. So it doesn't impact it.
would there be other things you would be interested in spending that grant money on? If we did a minimum 2-year, and then decided, well, this program's not for us, or we're not getting participation, Would there be alternatives that you could spend whatever's left over on?
There could be alternatives that fit within the scope of work of student safety and well-being. However, as presented as part of the application to the Department of Justice, these elements, these types of contracts have already been embedded into the scope of work as well as the approved budget.
Okay, then I suggest we just go for the full term.
Okay, Lester,
I want Kevin to negotiate a 36-month agreement with a 1-year cancellation clause if the adoption rate is below 50%. That's what I'd like to see. It's still taxpayer money, and if we're buying something that people aren't using, then it needs to be dropped, and we shouldn't be paying for it.
so your choice would be 36 months if Kevin can negotiate.
Correct.
What if he can't negotiate?
The 12 months.
Okay, so we have 24, 36, 12.
That's not me. I'm interested in hearing the superintendent's recommendation. That's usually what I go with.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. So,
I didn't hear the superintendent's recommendation yet.
Thank you. To answer both your questions, my recommendation is for 36 months. It ties into Mr. Costin's comments or questions to me earlier. The funding has been encumbered already in a sense in the proposed budget with the Department of Justice for the amount of 24,300. It does take tying into Mr. Jorgensen's comment in terms of first year you introduce, you get the buy-in. Second years, you start with more efficiency in terms of implementation, and third year you becomes part of the culture and climate within the umbrella of PBIS and TSS framework. So my recommendation would be 36 months.
okay, so
I make a motion that we accept the term to be 36 months.
Second,
okay, is there any more discussion on that?
I meant the 36.
Okay, so the consensus of the board is 36 months, so we are voting on the 36-month term. Call for question, all those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Cost and
Mascot.
Falls by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. C, Cognito annual subscription price. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Dr. Sakian?
Thank you for your questions, trustees, earlier. This is quite similar. Again, grant funded Department of Justice for the amount of $17,550 for a 36-month subscription. Again, this is embedded in the original proposal in terms of the budget. And this is a full PK through 12th grade library, online library curriculum. This is not for teachers that teach students, but this is an online curriculum of getting awareness to staff that interact with our students on a daily basis. For example, there are units of anti-bullying, there are units of suicidal ideation. So with the onboarding of our social workers at the school sites, at their staff meetings on Wednesdays, they could go ahead and impart the curriculum and the content with our staff, our teachers, to take a look at. We understand that teachers have a full plate, they are not counselors by profession, but to look for signs and symptoms and where to refer students. This is the type of curriculum that Cognito provides our educators and our teachers. So I'm recommending a 36-month subscription to be paid out of the Department of Justice grant for the amount of $17,550. And this will be facilitated by the team of social workers as part of professional development.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
cost and Mascot.
Falls by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. The resolution number 2022-23.12 declaring unusable, obsolete, or no longer needed items. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Thank you. The staff's recommendation is to approve resolution as stated. This is for obsolete items such as technology, furniture, instructional materials not in use. I'll turn it over to Mr. Bensko for additional details or clarification.
Pretty much it sums it up, okay?
Okay, discussion?
Just curious about the books, in the book era, have they been offered up to the community if they're interested, or to the public library if they're interested before they get recycled?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
No more discussion, call for question, all those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen.
Tom,
Falls, you're up by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. E resolution number 202-23.13, approving assignment of delinquent tax receivables.
I'll move.
Second.
Dr. Salakia?
Thank you. As part of a joint powers agreement, the district receives a portion of delinquent tax receivables. Mr. Vesco, any additional details?
Yeah, so essentially this program allows the district to earn a little bit of extra funding from taxes that the county or could not collect, I'm sorry.
This big guy.
That, I know, I'll do it like this. I'm going like that, but, yeah, essentially, so it's just a program that allows us to get for additional revenue from the sale of, the delinquent tax receivables, so it's really doesn't count against our LCFF funding, that's just purely additional dollars. It's about $5,000 a year, so it's not too much, but hey, I need a little bit of help. It's not very
Any counts. Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. I was reading the fact on this, I'm trying to understand. So on number 6, it says, how do we determine the economic benefit from my school? And it says each district that participates in the program receives an amount of money in excess of the base tax due. Does that mean, so I'm assuming that this is, the deadbeat didn't pay the property tax.
Right.
You're gonna have a joint powers agreement with some entity that's gonna go after them as collections.
Essentially, we sell the we sell the receivables at a discount or at a premium.
Okay.
And then we get the revenues, well, KPA gets revenue, and then we get a portion of that based on our area or our, what our portion of that. So like I said, it's about 5,000, 5,500, give or take, it just depends.
Based on the number of delinquents in our district, or was that?
Overall, throughout the whole county. Like I said, it's based on the whole county.
So, so there's $5,000 to be collected from the whole county. It's not all.
Just the delinquent portion of the entire county's taxes. So it is not just, this is completely almost separate than our regular property taxes. Like I said, it doesn't count against or for our property taxes that are included in the LCFF. This is an additional revenue that the LA County would end up having to go and collect the taxes, and it just has to go, we don't have to do it ourselves.
And normally we would just have those as unpaid. Pretty much.
Yeah, because the state, remember, the way that we're funded is that whatever portion we don't collect in property taxes, the state fills our bucket. If you assume our state funding is a bucket, right?
Right.
First goes into property taxes and then goes in the state portion that they're gonna provide. And if for whatever reason that property tax is not higher, low, then, they would fill it with the state funding. And again, this is delinquent, so this is, like I said, outside of that, because they weren't collected by the state, so they're selling receivables, so we can get the extra revenue. That makes sense. It's a hard concept. I know that FAQ is,
Well, it's like hiring Vinny and Guido to go out and get the money, right? And maybe you'll get something back when you're selling.
well, we're selling them, we're selling them the receivables, and they can go do whatever they want with it. But they're giving us a portion of those funds to it. Yeah.
And the time frame in this is.
It's annual, or so this is a 3-year agreement, but yeah, we usually get it. It kind of depends. Sometimes it comes towards the end of the year, sometimes at the beginning. It just kind of depends.
Based on who they can give the money out.
Well, like I said, we're not.
Oh, they're just buying, they're just.
We already get the, they sell their, it's almost like they're selling a packet of receivables.
So they're gonna look at it and put a value on it and give us something.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Call for question, all those in favor?
Tim Jorgensen.
Falls, you're up by.
Brianna Texoni, aye. F, approval of request for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions. For is that J0 13A.
Move.
Thank you. Second,
Sorry.
Saxony, like you mentioned, this is a request to obtain approval of attendance instructional time credit for emergency scenarios. Not like we've ever had a snow day, right? So if we have a snow day, we're not necessarily deemed as a school district in terms of trying to make up that's the instructional minutes towards the end of the academic calendar. So this provides that allowance with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jordan to that.
Cost and I.
Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, aye. G, 2022-23 local control and accountability plan. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Dr. Sakian.
So Judy, we had a very concise presentation by Mr. Vensko. Thank you, Mr. Vensko, for the LCAP as well as the budget piece, LCFF. So here we are for June 22nd for approval, please.
Real quick, just a little bit, I'd like to notice that it says 2022, 2023, it actually should say 2023, 2024. I recognize that, so the item itself is, I guess, wrong, but it's for the 2020.
I move to amend the title.
Thank you.
Second.
We need to vote to amend the title. Okay, go ahead and vote, please.
Tim Jordan to that.
Cost and I.
Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, aye. The title is amended to read 2023-2024 local control and accountability plan. Thank you. Is that the only discussion? I'll call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jordan to that.
Cost and I.
And there's still a lot of work to that last time. So good job. Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, aye. H, 2023-24 adopted budget. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Dr. Sahakian?
Again, apologize again, 23-24 LCFF budget for approval, please.
Discussion? Hearing none, call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jordan to that.
Cost and I.
Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, aye. I, resolution number 2022-23.14, authorizing use of remote teleconferencing provisions. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
We just discussed this in the consent agenda. It's a time saver last meeting, I believe. Bring it up again, myself.
Can you do that? It's a resolution.
No, okay.
That would be really cool though, because we do this a lot. Call for question. All those in favor?
Tim Jordan to that.
Cost and I.
Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, aye. 14A calendar, we have no meetings remaining for the 2022-23 school year. First regular meeting for the 23-24 school year is August 10th, 2023. 15A future agenda items. We have principal job description and sports facility long-term plan. Do we have any additions to future agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on. 16A adjournments. Recommend the board adjourn the meeting at 9:45 p.m. Can I get a motion?
Move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Discussion? Does anybody want to talk about it?
Discussion, maybe Ken, are you done? Okay, so we can vote.
Go ahead.
Are we ready to vote? Tim Jordan tonight.
Cost and I.
Mascot.
Paul Sharpie.
Brianna Textoni, I meeting is during the 9:45.